We have Sara Ines Calderon here, and we're going to talk about South by Southwest and Latin entrepreneurship. Sara, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, I understand you're with the press now, but you've previously been with a company called Me Too. Tell us more about that.
Me Too is a Latino YouTube network that essentially creates content specifically for YouTube for the US Latin market, but also the Latin American market, and also kind of brings in YouTube channels and YouTube creators from all over the world, specifically Latin America, but also including Portugal and Spain, to monetize content and also kind of pull resources in terms of networking and marketing and things of that nature on YouTube specifically.
You know, the entrepreneurial market in the Latin community is growing tremendously.
Absolutely, and it's been really exciting here at South by Southwest this year as part of Interactive's official programming for the first year. They created an entire Latinos in Tech track on the heels of the Blacks in Tech track that they had last year. So it's been really exciting for me to kind of attend these different panels and see some of the different ideas that are either being discussed or being developed or being created, the kind of different conversations that Latino and Latina entrepreneurs are having amongst themselves or trying to have with VCs or trying to have with other folks in the community. So it's been really exciting.
Any particular observations about the Latino entrepreneur that you've seen from these tracks?
Well, I think one thing that kind of comes up at the different sessions that I've attended, as well as a session I attended for the Blacks in Technology track this morning, is there's a set of pipeline issues. It doesn't just necessarily come down to finding the STEM talent to be the programmers, but it's also a matter of specifically when you're talking about funding or mentorship. There's this issue where, who are the people that you know? Like, I actually know a woman who is a presenter this year. She went from single parent household, she went to MIT, she got a master's at Harvard. She's a brilliant woman, and she started a nonprofit to teach Latinas engineering, but she can't, like some other people have, can go to friends and family and raise tens of thousands of dollars, and that's their seed money. She doesn't necessarily have that access. And so I think that's a big chunk of the conversations that are going on, is how can Latino and Latina entrepreneurs use either available resources or network outside of their immediate community to get that same kind of access. So
how can we help more to achieve that goal, do you think? Has there been any solutions in the sessions you've seen so far, or is there an establishment of what the problem is?
It's more just kind of an establishment of the problem. I think there's been some different solutions raised. Certainly, one thing that's been really kind of funny is Twitter in and of itself has been a really great networking tool for people to find different folks, and also, oddly enough, crowdfunding has been a really tremendous way for people not necessarily to get the money that they need, but to get in front of people who can help them get the money that they need. So it's almost kind of like crowdfunding is serving this intermediary role of not necessarily getting funding, but say another friend of mine ended up talking to Google Entrepreneur Program because someone sent them the link to her Kickstarter campaign. So that's not necessarily what you think you're going to get when you do crowdfunded campaigns, but
So it's not an intentional activity, but it's a fortuitous activity.
absolutely.
And do you think those fortuitous opportunities happen? It's the connection of the people here at South by that becomes important?
Absolutely. I think that what South by Southwest I think really offers, especially in my experience as a Latina and as I've been seeing the different Latino and Latina technologists and entrepreneurs here, is you end up being kind of, amongst my circle of friends certainly, I'm probably the one that stands out the most, who cares about technology and startups and things of that nature. However, what ends up happening is you kind of find your tribe, as it were, other folks with similar interests to yours, and so then you can build a community out from there. And so, hey, I heard about this grant, or I heard about this startup position, or I heard about this guy who wants to start it. You guys could be co-founders, and that's how you go about creating those connections. And to answer your earlier question, how can more mainstream entrepreneurs or VCs or the startup community engage with Black and Latino or non-white entrepreneurs? I think it's almost just tapping into those same networks, YouTube and Kickstarter. I mean, people are trying to find their tribe everywhere, and they're doing it mostly online, which anybody can tap into if you look.
Absolutely. But apart from online, being here at South by Southwest helps you accelerate that, tapping into that tribe.
It absolutely does. I think there's so much happening here in Austin. I'm certainly excited about. You know, I mean, I'm from Texas. I have family from Texas. I've lived in Austin. I've lived in San Antonio. And so to see the San Antonio from my youth compared to the San Antonio of today, or the Austin of like 7 years ago when I lived here, to the Austin of today, it's just so different. And it's exciting to think that as these cities are growing, as the populations are changing, certainly with regard to the Hispanic population, it's exciting to see that the economy is also changing and evolving into something that I think is ultimately going to make Central Texas and Texas in general a much more like potent and viable place for everybody. So
we are here with Sara. And Sara has found her tribe specifically in Latin entrepreneurship, and we're so glad she's here with us today. Sara, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me.